Unbelievable truth revealed: the inspiring fate of a notorious Gestapo agent and his wife Eleanor Whitaker sat on the floor of her sun-drenched living room, surrounded by a kaleidoscope of memories, as she gingerly opened the diary belonging to her late husband, Henry. This was not the diary of a man she thought she knew. This revealed tales of darkness, as shocking as they were unbelievable. With each page she flipped, her heart clenched tighter, teetering on the brink of disbelief. The overwhelming weight of betrayal pressed down on her chest, and she felt her breath quickening. The man who had held her heart was intertwined in the very fabric of history she had long despised. What kind of man was she married to? In this picturesque town, a false image of honor and family had built her world. Life as a schoolteacher had always been about nurturing young minds, instilling hope and virtues that Eleanor now questioned. The joy she once found in guiding her students dissolved into shadows of uncertainty. How long had Henry kept this deception, a high-ranking Gestapo agent during World War II, hidden from her? The quiet chaos around her felt suffocating. She fumbled with delicate objects on the floor, memories of their children streaming back, now colored with bitter doubt. Every photograph flickered under the scrutiny of treachery. Laughter from family dinners seemed hauntingly misplaced. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Eleanor's fingers trembled as she gripped the diary tighter. Memories of Henry's stories painted him as brave, a protector amidst a terrible war, yet, with every revelation, she questioned the narrative fabric that held together their lives. The shame crept in, like creeping ivy around her heart, choking the warmth of their shared life. How could she reconcile the gentle husband who raised 2 children with the potential monster hiding behind a mask of normalcy? The kind of bravery he spoke of in hopes to salvage others now seemed like a twisted justification, a silent consent to the unforgivable. Panic surged. A fleeting image of their children discovering the diary, their faces twisted in shock and disappointment, haunted her thoughts. What would they do? Would they become burdened with the legacy that now felt tainted by unforgivable sins? She felt the burden of morality sit heavy on her shoulders, threatening to fracture the very core of their family. She wanted to protect them, to shield their memories from the chaos that had now invaded their history. As Eleanor sank deeper into conflicting thoughts, a soft creak of the floorboards startled her. She turned sharply as the doorbell echoed through the room, interrupting the turmoil in her mind. An old family friend stood at the threshold, holding a file. Once a colleague of Henry's, now a potential harbinger of even deeper secrets. He stepped inside, and Eleanor could see the urgency in his eyes, as if he carried the weight of revelation itself. Slowly, her heart dropped at the realization that so much of Henry's life had been wrapped in enigma. The journey to understanding who her husband truly was had only just begun, and the looming shadows of uncertainty stretched long before her, promising that the truth, whatever it may be, was yet to unravel. Eleanor's breath hitched as Jonathan, the old family friend, stepped into the light of her living room, the file clutched tightly in his hands. She couldn't help but notice the stark contrast, his worry-riddled brow against the otherwise serene setting of her home. It felt surreal, as if the comfortable walls around her were closing in with the weight of the truth. "Eleanor," Jonathan said, his voice steady but laced with urgency, "there's something you need to see." Instinctively, she recoiled, the implications of his words swirling ominously in her mind. She had already unearthed more than she ever wished to know about Henry, and now an impending confrontation loomed with greater gravity. A battle waged within her: should she unearth more secrets or maintain the fragile structure of what remained of their family? Fighting to remain composed, she gestured for him to sit, a flicker of apprehension igniting within her. As Jonathan opened the file, documents and photographs unfurled on her coffee table, their edges frayed, fragments of a life she hadn't known existed. "These records should have been destroyed long ago. They confirm what you've read, but there are layers to this story, Eleanor." His words hung heavy in the air, each syllable a reminder of the decaying trust she shared with Henry. Eleanor focused on the photographs, grasping evidence of her husband's life, young faces lined with fervor at a war-torn dinner table, men laughing despite the chaos. It was as if each image carried a forbidden testament to the decisions Henry had made. The betrayal cut deeper than before, a reminder of the love that had now twisted into something darker. "Did he ever express remorse?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper, disbelief melding with a flicker of hope. Perhaps there was a glimmer of redemption, some vestige of humanity buried beneath layers of complicity. Jonathan avoided her gaze and adjusted the stack of papers. "It's complicated. He was part of a system that ensnared and claimed lives, yet he once mentioned wanting to do good, to protect the innocent." But Eleanor's heart hammered. Was it possible to wear dual masks to be both protector and destroyer? This didn't reconcile with the man she had loved, the father to her children. But what? "Speak plainly," she demanded, leaning forward, urgency overriding her haunted thoughts. She needed answers, even if they shattered her world further. "Eleanor, I think it's crucial for you to understand that there were others entangled in this web. Your husband was under pressure, much more than any of us could have guessed. He was conflicted." Jonathan's tone softened, a hint of compassion evident in his eyes. "I believe he might have been hiding his own fears of rejection, of being on the wrong side of history." Every word jolted through her, an unsettling separation of Henry's two lives, the husband and the agent. It was a realization that twisted her gut. That perhaps the sins of the past were reinforced by the innate flaws in humanity's very structure. Could she find a way to honor the love she once knew while grappling with the abyss that had always been there, hidden beneath the surface? Eleanor took a deep breath, the burden of Henry's sins battling with the love she still felt. Layers of loyalty and betrayal crashed within her. She realized this was not just about him, but about her journey toward understanding, of ensuring that their children would not carry the weight of his past indiscretions. Resolutely, she pulled a notepad from a drawer, jotting down questions she had been too afraid to ask, pathways she would need to explore. The quest for knowledge had begun, but clarity remained veiled in darkness. Could she confront what her life had become without succumbing to despair? As she looked up, Jonathan's eyes held her gaze intently. "The time has come to face not just the past, but also what this means for your future." And with this loaded implication, the flicker of possibility ignited within her forged a new path, free from the echoes of the past. But knew that answers would not come without a price. Would she be ready to pay it? A sudden ring from her phone shattered the tension. As she glanced, a chilling message appeared. "I know the truth about Henry. It's bigger than you think." In that moment, Eleanor understood that the true test of her resolve was just beginning. Eleanor stared at her phone, her heart racing in sync with the chaotic thoughts spiraling through her mind. The words on the screen felt like a knife, thrust into her carefully constructed reality. "I know the truth about Henry. It's bigger than you think." Who was this person? How did they have such knowledge? And what could it mean for her and her children? It was as if her life had been thrown into a vortex, dragging her deeper into uncertainty. She stood, clutching the edge of the table to steady herself. The photographs, the documents each spoke of a life intertwined in secrets, betrayals lurking just beneath the surface. She had been on the brink of confronting those truths with Jonathan, and now, this message threatened to shove her into the unknown. "What does it say?" Jonathan's voice cracked through her haze, an urgency reflecting the weight of the moment. Eleanor swallowed hard. "It's just a message. Someone knows about Henry. They're implying there's more to the story, beyond what we've seen." This revelation elicited 100 questions, but most pressing was the fear of what lay ahead. Jonathan's expression changed, a mix of concern and encouragement. "Then you need to find out. This could be your chance to uncover everything he hid. There might be more layers of truth waiting to be revealed." It was both an invitation and a challenge, one that ignited the embers of Eleanor's determination. She took a deep breath, the weight of the past merging with her growing resolve. Discovering the truth was not just about seeking justice for Henry's sins, it was about liberating herself and her children from his legacy. "Where do I even start?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt, attentive to the flicker of courage that had begun to form in her chest. Jonathan leaned back, contemplating. "You could trace this message. Find out who sent it. Whoever knows the truth might hold the key to everything Henry's past, the choices he made, the man he became. As Eleanor flipped her notepad open again, she began to jot down a plan. She would need to employ a mix of intuition and strategy, interviewing those who might have insight into Henry's life, consulting with experts on the history of his affiliations. Each detail would be painstaking, but she understood now that the answers she sought could empower not just her, but also the future of her children. The first step would require courage, a first confrontation that would test her resolve. She remembered her mother's words about standing firm in the face of adversity, and for the first time in a long while, Eleanor felt a flicker of that bravado. She would not allow the shadows of Henry's past to dictate her family's future. "Do you think you can handle it?" Jonathan's voice broke through her focus. "I have to," Eleanor replied, her voice now a breath of conviction. She would embrace this journey, no matter how daunting, for the sake of her children and for her own sense of self. The room felt charged with possibility, the air thickening as Eleanor envisioned the path forward. She would pursue every lead, no matter how small or insignificant, and would sift through the layers of deceit until she unveiled the truths that had been hidden for too long. Determined, she stood up. "Let us begin." As Jonathan began to gather the materials they would need, Eleanor paused, realizing the scope of what they were about to embark on. This challenge would demand resilience beyond measure, and self-discovery would be inevitable in the wake of confrontation. Yet, it was clear, each step she took would not only tell Henry's story but would also illuminate her own. "Eleanor?" Jonathan's voice cut through her thoughts again. "There is more we need to learn about the people who were involved in Henry's decisions. It's going to require a deep dive into shadows you might not want to face." "Then let us confront the shadows," she said, newfound strength radiating from her words. "I am ready." As Jonathan nodded, the doorbell chimed, an unexpected intrusion that broke through their charged atmosphere. The sound echoed, pulling Eleanor's attention sharply, the tension crackling anew with uncertainty. Who could that be? Jonathan wondered aloud, glancing toward the door. Her pulse quickened again, instincts sharpening. Perhaps the truth regarding Henry was already reaching out to her in unlikely ways. What if the message had drawn in others who shared pieces of the puzzle? Striding toward the door, she felt the weight of every decision she had made coalesce into the moment before her. With resolve coursing through her veins, she opened the door, unprepared for what or who awaited her on the other side. Eleanor paused on the threshold, her breath hitching as the world momentarily faded away. Standing on her doorstep was a tall figure cloaked in shadows, their face partially hidden by a worn hat. The moment felt electric, suspended in time as her mind raced to decipher the meaning of this stranger's presence. "Can I help you?" she managed, her tone striking a careful balance between curiosity and caution. "Eleanor," the figure spoke, voice low and gravelly, "I have something for you." As they stepped forward, she caught a glimpse of their eyes, sharp, vibrant, and intense, a burning recognition she couldn't quite place. Instinctively, Eleanor scanned the surroundings, seeking reassurance among the familiar elements of her home, yet feeling strangely vulnerable. The weight of the unknown loomed larger than ever, and she could sense Jonathan's presence behind her, curious but apprehensive. "Who are you?" Eleanor asked, voice steadying with newfound determination. She had brushed with secrets for too long to let fear guide her now. "Someone who knows more about your husband's affairs than you can imagine," the stranger replied, pulling out a small envelope and holding it out toward her. "This contains information that can change everything." The envelope trembled in her hand, the challenge within it calling to her instincts for pursuit and resolution. With a deep breath, she opened it slowly, the rustle of paper cutting through the tension between them. Inside were photographs, intimate, incriminating, and a single typed sheet of paper that detailed transactions and individuals Henry had been involved with. Names she didn't recognize, but each one pulsing with potential context. "What is this?" she whispered, her eyes glued to the evidence before her. "It's just the tip of the iceberg," the stranger said, eyes darkening with gravity. "Henry was tangled in things that would make your skin crawl. You need to know who you're dealing with if you want to protect your children." An unsettling knot formed in Eleanor's stomach, the realization settling heavily. The weight of this new knowledge bore down on her. Was this stranger truly an ally?
Would digging deeper into Henry's past lead her toward illumination, or would it only unveil more layers of corruption and danger? Who sent you?
Her thoughts wandered to the message she had received.
Was this connected to the warning?
A faint glimmer of understanding flashed in her mind, the opportunity to reclaim not just her narrative, but also the lives of her children. The truth has a way of reaching those who seek it, whether they're prepared or not, the figure replied cryptically. You don't have to accept this if you're not ready, but remember, knowledge can be a powerful weapon.
Eleanor's pulse quickened, and as the stranger turned to leave, she felt an overwhelming surge of urgency cloaked in uncertainty.
There was an invitation here to expose the twisted history surrounding Henry, yet the shadows it cast threatened to overshadow her motives and desires. She put the envelope in her pocket, feeling the weight of potential futures pressing in around her.
Wait.
Why should I trust you? She called out, almost too late to stop the figure from walking away. Because, they paused momentarily, glancing back with an inscrutable expression, you instinctively know that facing the truth is your only option now.
And sometimes, it takes an outsider to show you the way.
As the door swung closed behind her, the reality of her situation bore down like storm clouds. The complexity of her next steps loomed ahead, a confrontation not just with external forces, but also with herself as she grappled with trust, deception, and what it meant to be a mother.
Eleanor turned to Jonathan, urgent resolve illuminating her features. We have to act on this. This is our chance to dig deeper into the truth. What now?
He questioned, the weight of his words hanging amid their charged atmosphere.
We create a new plan. We reach out to the people connected to these documents.
We unveil the full story.
I can feel it, there is more that will change. Everything.
Eleanor, Jonathan warned, his tone shifting as the seriousness of the engagement settled in, there are risks involved.
We might awaken something we cannot control.
Then let us prepare for whatever comes, she replied with fierce determination. As they gathered what they would need, Eleanor resolved to embrace the challenge ahead, ready to unearth answers while battling the shadows of Henry's decisions. The personal stakes were climbing higher, and the past, tipped with lies, beckoned her to confront its entanglements head-on. With every step toward uncovering Henry's reality, she felt her own transformation igniting. She was no longer simply the woman tethered to a legacy, she was becoming a force to be reckoned with. But as they delved into the heart of investigative work, would the truths Eleanor unearthed endanger her and her children more than she anticipated? Would she lose herself in the shadows she was so determined to confront? The weight of her purpose thrummed in her mind, wondering if liberation lay in the truth or if it would lead to unforeseen consequences lurking just out of sight. Eleanor sat at the dining table, the envelope lying heavy in front of her like an anchor tethering her to a tumultuous sea of uncertainties. The photographs inside haunted her, revealing a shadowed reality she had never wanted to confront.
Jonathan stood nearby, arms crossed, watching her as if gauging the tempest brewing within. Are you sure you want to do this? He finally asked, voice low, cautious.
It was a psychical question, probing the depths of her resolve.
What choice do I have? Her retort came out sharper than intended.
The truth felt like a caged beast inside her, gnashing to break free. Eleanor wasn't just on a mission for information, she needed clarity about herself, her marriage, her identity.
We can't live under a cloud of deceit. Jonathan nodded, though his brow furrowed with concern. We need a strategy. Going in blind could make things worse.
His words triggered a visceral reaction. She glanced around the room, spotting her children's art on the fridge, their laughter echoing faintly from the living room. A rush of fierce protectiveness coursed through her. This wasn't merely about Henry, it was about creating a safe future for them.
Eleanor took a deep breath, grounding herself.
Let us start with these names, she proposed, pulling out the sheet and scanning its contents, a list of associates connected to Henry's dealings.
There must be something we can latch onto. They spent the next hours poring over each name, their living space transforming into an impromptu war room filled with lists and frantic notes. Each name was a potential thread to unravel Henry's fabric of lies.
As Eleanor delved deeper, something awakened inside her, a realization of her own tactical capabilities. She never would have imagined herself as an investigator. Yet here she was, unearthing her latent strengths amid the chaos. James Wilcox, she said suddenly, her finger tracing one entry. He was mentioned in the company reports Henry used to bring home. Could he be a lead? Jonathan leaned closer, considering. We could check around at the old office. There was a spark in his eyes, a silent acknowledgement that they were both venturing into uncharted territory. With the plan set, Eleanor's mind raced with possibilities. They could reach out, tap into resources, and perhaps even garner support. Each new decision felt like an act of defiance, stirring echoes of old fears, but she quelled them. No longer would she shy away from the truth. Every step she took was an affirmation of her growing strength. As they prepared for their first outreach to Wilcox, doubt crept back in, unsettling and persistent. What if the truths they unearthed were not only ugly but dangerous? Could they handle the repercussions? She caught Jonathan's eye, sensing his silent worry reflected back at her. It was like staring into a mirror of her own fear. What if he doesn't want to talk? Jonathan asked, breaking the silence. Eleanor thought about it, contemplating possibility over fear. Then we push harder. We're not leaving any stone unturned. With a renewed sense of purpose, they set out to confront the shadows that had lingered for too long. The precinct of their lives now felt ripe with urgency, and she was no longer merely a passive participant. She was reclaiming agency, ready to battle whatever came next. That night, unable to sleep, Eleanor lay awake, enveloped by swirling thoughts. The images of Henry's duplicitous life filled her mind alongside the countenance of her children. She made a promise to herself to do whatever it took to safeguard their lives from emerging threats. Yet, as dawn broke, an unexpected call came through, the number starkly unknown. Heart racing, Eleanor hesitated, and then answered. Eleanor, a familiar voice, a distant echo of her past, said, I know what you're searching for, and I'm afraid I can help you, but it comes with a cost. As her heart hammered under the weight of its implications, Eleanor felt the ground shift beneath her. The confrontation she had braced for was closer than she ever anticipated, and this time, there was no turning back. What price was she willing to pay for the truth? Eleanor inhaled sharply, feeling the tightening grip of anxiety around her chest. The voice on the line, an echo from her past, stirred something else within her, a remembrance of the ambitious woman she once was before her life had been consumed by marital complacency and the mundane routine of motherhood. The call was a harbinger, one that demanded she reclaim an identity she had long neglected. Who is this? She replied, her voice steady despite the tempest whirling inside her. Lucas, he said. We studied together. You remember me? The name nodded her, reviving memories tinted with nostalgia and ambition. Lucas had always been the fearless one, ever inquisitive, ever unyielding. In a moment that stretched painfully long, she grappled with that mixture of old familiarity and present apprehension. What do you know, Lucas? What do you want in return? I know about Henry. His dealings are far-reaching and dangerous. But I can get you what you need to protect your family, you just have to trust me. Each word hung heavily in the air, dripping with implications she couldn't ignore. Trust was a currency in short supply, yet a flicker of eagerness ignited within her. Perhaps this was the opportunity she had been searching for, a lifeline to sever the shadowing ties of Henry's deceit. What is the cost? She pressed again, her resolve solidifying. Information, he replied, his tone shifting from pleading to commanding. You'll need to uncover more than you think to truly understand the danger he poses. Information that isn't easily given. Eleanor felt the weight of her choices as she wrestled with the dangers of the unknown. Her instinct battled a burgeoning determination. If she truly wanted to protect her children, she needed to be ready to confront fear head-on, regardless of the consequences. I'm listening. The conversation wore on, burning hours away as he detailed the names, connections, and dark whispers around Henry's life. With every detail, her emotional stakes intensified. The murky waters of her marriage no longer consumed her entire focus. Eleanor began mapping out scenarios where knowledge could transform her into a formidable opponent against Henry's treachery. The sun descended, casting an orange glow over the kitchen, illuminating stark contrasts, the warmth of home shadowed by the chilling truths she acknowledged. She was no longer a passive player, she was meticulously crafting a strategy, piecing together her own past with the present. That night, as the children slept, she filled a notebook with insights and leads, transforming uncertainty into action. Days melted into blur, and Eleanor found herself backtracking through her life in search of more clues. She reached out to old colleagues, piecing together Henry's network while honing her newfound skills. Each name brought a rush of adrenaline, invigorating her with the thrill of discovery. Yet, with each name came whispers of danger, a constant reminder that she was precariously close to the edge. Her resolve hardened. This wasn't just about information, it was about reclaiming power over her own narrative. Then, with a sense of urgency, Eleanor returned to the list of contacts. She needed to confront the very man whose shadows were threatening to consume her. "We need to find Wilcox," she told Jonathan one night, pulling him away from the nightly news. "He knows more than we think. He might be a key to unlock everything." Jonathan's eyes reflected both concern and admiration. He was witnessing Eleanor evolve, an unexpected partner in her quest for justice. "Are you ready for this?" he asked, his voice soft yet probing. Determination surged within her. More than ready. As she strategized her next moves, the shadows that once felt suffocating now seemed like the battleground where she would reclaim her identity. She knew the confrontation ahead could upend her entire world, but it also held the potential for unprecedented clarity. The daring course she chose solidified her focus. She was no longer a woman detached from her own narrative but a fierce protector of her family's future. Her phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with another unknown number. Eleanor's breath caught in her throat. Was it another thread to pull, or a new danger? With growing apprehension and excitement, she answered, "Hello?" "Eleanor," the voice was cold, clinical. "I have something you need to hear about Henry. But be careful this ISNTA game." That chill of uncertainty returned to her spine, a reminder of the walls closing in on all sides. Would she have the strength to face what lay ahead? Eleanor braced herself, the chill from the voice electrifying her resolve. It was no longer merely about gathering information, it was about unveiling the very essence of Henry's deception. She sensed that each word could tip the scales in her battle, unlocking the sealed doors of a life dictating her every move. "Who is this?" she pressed, her voice steadier now, fueled by a current of purpose. "I can't share my name, but I know your husband's history. There are layers to his dealings you're yet to grasp. Meet me at the cafe on 5th at 6, the voice instructed, then abruptly hung up, leaving Eleanor quivering on the edge of a decision. What would she find waiting for her? And did she possess the courage to face the truth? Each heartbeat was a reminder of her children, their small faces interwoven with her burgeoning strength. Determination swirled within her, intertwining with fear. That evening, wrapped in her thick jacket, Eleanor made the journey to the cafe. The vibrant world outside felt almost surreal as she stepped into the cozy warmth of the cafe, the aroma of coffee hanging in the air. She spotted a man in the corner, his expression shadowed beneath the brim of a hat. It was a gamble she was willing to take. "Eleanor," he nodded, gesturing her to sit. His voice, though calm, hinted at stormy tales lurking beneath. "Let me guess, you know everything," she challenged, the steel in her tone surprising even herself. "Not everything, but enough to illuminate the dark corners of Henry's life," he responded with an enigmatic smile. "He is not just involved in shady dealings, he is tied to something much larger. It's dangerous, and I don't mean just for him." With each revelation, Eleanor found herself slipping deeper into a world she had previously skirted around. He spoke of hidden accounts, influential figures, and a network that could ensnare anyone caught in its web. Yet, she remained focused, absorbing the crucial details like a sponge, reframing her own narrative as a fierce warrior equipped with knowledge. "I need actionable intelligence." Her voice remained sharp, demanding clarity amidst the fog of confusion. Internal reflexes pushed her to focus, to remain steadfast against the maelstrom looming ahead. "You'll need to bring your husband in for an interrogation of sorts," the man replied, his eyes glinting with a blend of mischief and caution. "Test his loyalty. Discovering how far you can trust him might lead to greater insights.
The suggestion pierced through Eleanor's heart like an arrow. A confrontation lay ahead, not just with Henry's deceit but with their very marriage.
She could not deny it drew from an old wound still raw and festering. But the stakes were no longer just emotional, they now intertwined with the safety of her family.
After their meeting, she stepped back into the street, the brisk evening air invigorating her spirit. Eleanor found clarity in the chaos swirling around her. This could be the turning point. For once, she felt she was reclaiming power not only in her identity but her life's trajectory. Each step echoed her mounting confidence. She had unearthed a potent strategy, a potential confrontation that would meld her newfound skill set with the determination of a protective mother. As she neared home, her thoughts cascaded, planning her approach, imagining possible outcomes. What if Henry denied everything? What if he retaliated?
But the more she thought about it, the more she understood that her journey was as much about uncovering the truth as it was about unraveling the shadows that had clouded her identity for far too long. The door swung open to her home, revealing the stillness of night. She noticed Jonathan asleep on the couch as a sense of calm washed over her. But deep down, she knew the storm brewing on the horizon. She had a plan, and every part of her being was ready to execute it. Yet before she could settle into the comfort of that thought, her phone buzzed once more. This time, it was a text message from an unknown number.
"I know what you're about to do. Don't think it will end well for you."
The stakes had risen, and the line between safety and chaos blurred ominously.
Eleanor's heart raced. The time had come to confront Henry, but would it be her undoing as much as it could be her salvation?
Eleanor woke with a start, the morning sun streaming through the window, carrying with it the remnants of a restless night. She had spent hours twisting the confrontation over in her mind, imagining every conceivable reaction from Henry, balancing between anger, betrayal, and the unexpected vulnerability she'd witnessed over the years. The words of the man at the cafe echoed in her thoughts like a rhythmic drumbeat. She needed to be prepared, not just for what Henry might say, but for what she might uncover about herself. Sitting on the edge of her bed, the outline of her reflection in the mirror caught her eye, a woman changed, redefined by secrecy and determination. That internal shift became a bedrock from which she could draw her strength. Paralleled with her familial duties and interactions, Eleanor recognized that every bit of newfound resolve expanded her capability as a mother and as a partner. Confidence surged within her. Today was not merely a confrontation, it was a declaration. After dressing, Eleanor took her time preparing breakfast for Jonathan. As she scrambled the eggs and toasted the bread, each mundane act wrapped her in a comforting familiarity.
Yet an undercurrent pulsed the looming storm.
She shared light conversations with Jonathan, asking about his plans for the day while silently calculating her next steps.
Every laugh shared and smile exchanged filled her with bittersweet anticipation.
With each tick on the clock, the reality of her impending conversation unfolded. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. She inspected her reflection once more before heading to the door, poised, yes, but also unyieldingly aware of the potential fractures her revelations could unleash.
The facade of normalcy would soon be shattered.
After dropping Jonathan off at school, Eleanor made her way home, grappling with her nerves amidst the mundane scenery of the suburbs, the green lawns, the children playing in their front yards, unaware of the darker truths roiling just beneath the surface.
She picked at the thoughts threading through her mind. What would she do if Henry confessed? What would it mean if he continued to lie?
Back in her quiet, pristine kitchen, Eleanor grabbed a notepad and began to outline her game plan, a set of questions, observations, and potential outcomes she needed to consider. The act of writing brought reassurance, a tangible way to grasp her thoughts and fears. Just as she completed her page, another text chimed in her pocket. "You don't know the whole story.
Maybe you should just walk away."
A churning sensation roiled in her stomach. Suddenly, she was unsettled by the realization that someone was out there, aware of her intentions, and perhaps complicit in the chaos that lay at her doorstep. The idea of external manipulation sent daggers of anxiety through her heart. She understood that the stakes had escalated beyond the mere unraveling of a marriage. It was now a matter of personal survival. As Henry's car pulled into the driveway later that afternoon, Eleanor felt her pulse quicken in anticipation. The sun cast long shadows across the house, almost foreshadowing the tumult that awaited her. This confrontation, they would soon learn, would be as much about him as it would be about her past, and her right to reclaim the narrative of her life. Steeling herself by the window, Eleanor took a deep breath, anchoring herself eternally in the moment. "Remember who you are," she whispered under her breath, focusing on the strength that had molded her into the woman facing a fracture in her marriage and the unearthing of long-hidden secrets. The door clicked open, and Henry stepped inside. Their eyes locked, a silent recognition passing between them, a prelude to the chaos that would unfold. "Eleanor, how was your day?" he asked, an edge of unease creeping into his otherwise casual tone. Without missing a beat, she stepped closer, determined to engage in this conversation loaded with expectation and potency. It was not just a question of truth, it was an essential inquiry into the core of their life. Together. The time had come for her to take the reins, to wrestle with her uncertainties and explore the shadows of their shared past. "How far will you go to protect the man you once loved?" Eleanor asked, grounding her words in courage that trembled beneath her skin. The air thickened with unsaid truths, and in that moment, Eleanor understood, she was no longer just a passive observer. She was a pivotal player in her own life story, ready to confront the hidden depths of Henry's secrets and face the gripping uncertainty that awaited. The silence hung heavy between them, a palpable tension that seemed to stretch endlessly. Eleanor felt the weight of her words settle into the room like a thick fog. Henry shifted uncomfortably, his casual facade crumbling as the reality of her inquiry loomed large. "What do you mean?" he replied, his voice barely above a whisper, the tremor in his tone revealing the cracks in his stoic armor. Eleanor searched his eyes for truth, grappling with a sudden surge of emotion. In an instant, vulnerability crashed against her resolve, threatening to derail her carefully drafted intentions. Yet she pushed it aside, reminding herself of the purpose behind her confrontation. She wouldn't crumble. "Not now. Henry, we both know there are secrets between us, secrets you hold. I can't pretend any longer that everything is fine." Her voice steadied, a testament to her determination. "What have you been hiding?" His gaze darted away, the telltale sign of guilt, and in that fleeting moment, Eleanor saw the man she once loved and the stranger who now stood in front of her. The gap between them widened through layers of unspoken narratives, each crucial to understanding the man she had shared her life with. "I don't want to hurt you," he said, his features contorting in a mixture of regret and defiance. "But you've already hurt me," Eleanor countered, feeling an unexpected rush of assertiveness. Her heart thudded in her chest as she pressed on. "You've kept me in the dark while I raised our son. I deserve to know the truth. More importantly, I want to protect Jonathan from whatever shadow lurks behind your secrets." He sighed, an almost defeated sound, and in that moment, Eleanor's resolve wavered for the briefest instant. Was she prepared for whatever truth he would unleash? Would it break her or set her free? "Sometimes the truth is more painful than the lie," he murmured, his voice heavy with the weight of shared memories. "You don't understand what I've been through." Eleanor stepped forward, determined to bridge that emotional chasm. "Make me understand. I want to know everything." The request hung in the air, a challenge he could no longer reject. Taking a deep breath, Henry took a few hesitant steps back into their shared space. "It's about my past, about choices I made. Choices I thought would protect us, but I see now they may have only put you at risk." With each word he uttered, Eleanor felt her heart race. His admission held the key to releasing a floodgate of emotions, buried truths, and the possibility of reconciliation or perhaps the end. She needed to stay grounded, to excavate the clear lines of trust in that hazy emotional landscape. "What choices?" she pressed, her voice steady yet tinged with urgency. "What did you do that could harm our family?" He opened his mouth as if to speak, then hesitated, eyes wide with what felt like a mixture of fear and shame. Eleanor's instinct told her this was the moment she could either push forward or retreat into uncertainty. Suddenly, the phone's shrill ring interrupted them, a jarring intrusion into their intimate confrontation. Panic pricked at her skin, and she felt a sickening jolt of fear. Was it the unknown caller, the one who had sent the menacing text? Would they take this moment away from her? As Henry glanced at the phone, confusion deepened, and the decision laid heavy before her. Eleanor faced him, her jaw set with resolve.
Answer it. Let us not get sidetracked. Whatever is in that call should be part of this conversation. Eleanor could sense the disbelief coursing through him.
The situation grew heavier, more tumultuous, but she was ready to unearth the truth, no matter the cost. As Henry hesitantly picked up his ringing phone, Eleanor's pulse hammered in her chest.
What revelations awaited on the other end? Would this call lead to unraveling their secrets, or was it simply another twist in the ever-compounding chaos? Hello?
Henry answered, his voice tinged with caution. The air crackled with tension, the moment electric with potential revelations. With a single glance at Eleanor, he seemed to recognize the weight of this call, a precipice of their shared future hanging in the balance.
Eleanor, Henry's eyes widened, the phone still pressed to his ear. It's for you.
Eleanor felt her heart drop as Henry handed her the phone, a mix of dread and anticipation coiling in her stomach. They had danced around the truth for too long. Now, she was faced with the ultimate confrontation. She took the phone, the weight of it heavy in her hand, and cautiously pressed it to her ear.
Hello, she responded, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling within.
Eleanor, a familiar voice answered, sending a shiver down her spine. It was Lucas, the one who had set her on this path, the one who claimed to have the answers she desperately sought. I have more information for you, but you must meet me, he urged, urgency lacing his tone.
It's time to shed light on the darkness surrounding Henry.
The revelation crashed over Eleanor like a tidal wave, the shocking intensity of what Lucas implied pulled her into a heady cocktail of emotion. Could Henry's past be deeper, more involved, than she had imagined?
Why can't you just tell me over the phone? Eleanor demanded, her voice growing firm.
She needed clarity, more than evasions and speculative conversations cloaked in shadows.
Because this isn't just about you and Henry anymore.
This involves others powerful people, Lucas replied, his voice thick with foreboding. Eleanor felt the world narrow around her, focusing solely on the gravity of his words.
What do you mean? Who else is involved?
You need to come to the old warehouse near the docks tonight. Trust me, it's the only way to understand the truth. I'll be waiting, Lucas instructed, the somber weight of his words creating a foreboding atmosphere. Before she could respond, he hung up, leaving Eleanor rattled and standing at the edge of decision. She turned to Henry, searching for any semblance of reassurance, knowing full well that this next step could yield consequences they weren't prepared to face. Before she could voice her thoughts, Henry's expression morphed from confusion to apprehension.
What was that about?
It's about your past, Eleanor said, her breath catching in her throat.
Lucas claims he has information that could change everything. He wants to meet tonight and I need to go. Absolutely not.
Henry's voice rose slightly, a spark of panic coloring his tone.
You can't put yourself in danger, Eleanor.
Whatever they're involved in, just leave it alone. The fight that had simmered between them throughout this ordeal reignited, infused now with the urgency of her quest for answers.
Danger?
Henry, you're the one whose past has put us all at risk.
How can I trust you if you won't let me uncover the truth?
His defensiveness crumbled momentarily, revealing a flicker of vulnerability that pulled at her heartstrings.
I can't let them get to you. No matter what I've done, I have to confront it. I can't live in a lie, not anymore.
The words burst forth, imbued with an intensity that felt like liberation. We owe it to our children to face this head-on. The silence that lingered was piercing, and Eleanor saw him wrestle with the idea of acknowledging the shadows that had dictated their lives for too long. I'll go with you, Henry finally said, determination hardening his features.
I won't let you face this alone.
Eleanor's heart swelled at his unexpected offer, yet doubts still flickered within her. Would he truly embrace this confrontation? Could he face the realities of his past instead of retreating into the darkness? That night, shadows cast by the setting sun enveloped them as they drove toward the warehouse, the air thick with the weight of unspoken revelations. Eleanor felt renewed strength coursing through her as anxiety faded in the face of purpose. This night was not about blaming or dissolving their commitment, it was about reclaiming agency over their narrative. As they parked, the ominous structure loomed before them, a hulking mass filled with potential revelation and peril.
Eleanor stepped out of the car, a fierce resolve illuminating her demeanor.
Hand in hand, they walked towards the entrance, the decision to confront their past echoing around them like thunder.
Lucas stood
against the faint glow of the streetlights, his figure silhouetted against a chaotic backdrop of barrels and abandoned crates. "You came," he remarked, an edge of surprise weaving into his greeting.
"What do you know, Lucas?" Eleanor demanded, the urgency in her voice unmistakable. Lucas beckoned them closer, and as they moved into the eerie confines of the warehouse, he disclosed the extent of Henry's entanglements.
The enormity of the revelations washed over her, confirming her worst fears while illuminating the depths of Henry's past.
With each disclosure, a profound shift occurred within Eleanor.
This was not simply the unveiling of secrets, it was a forging of self, a reclamation of her identity that had been shadowed for too long. She felt the chains slip off as she listened, fierce and unyielding. After sharing critical information about the individuals intertwined with Henry's dealings, Lucas turned to them. "You both need to devise a plan.
This isn't just about confronting the past, it's about safeguarding your future." Eleanor met Henry's eyes, feeling a surge of hope mixed with uncertainty.
They would need to strategize, face challenges, and navigate complex webs of loyalty and betrayal. But beneath it all there would also be an opportunity to stand united. "Let us tackle this together," Eleanor asserted, embodying a strength she had not known existed within her. "We reclaim our narrative, for ourselves and for Jonathan." Henry nodded, an unspoken understanding passing between them, a commitment to face the horrors of his past thicker than the shadows that obscured their path. Weeks over weeks of preparation followed, as they drew outlines, examined resources, and rallied support from those who could help them decipher the intricate web of Henry's past. Their newfound partnership bore the fruit of determination, illuminating a way forward while dismantling layers of deceit thread by thread. Eleanor frequently reflected on the woman she had been before, tethered by obligations, fears, and the weight of marital responsibility. The woman standing here now was spirited, empowered, and unyielding before the harsh truth that had emerged. No longer a passive bystander, she embraced the challenge of ownership over her life. That very truth would become their armor as they gathered the courage to dismantle the past's chains, finally breaking free and ringing in the dawn of a new chapter, unfolding true love juxtaposed against an honesty that could shatter illusions. As Eleanor gazed into the distance, she felt a sense of peace envelop her, a certainty that together, they could rewrite their legacy. No longer entangled in the dread of the past, they would emerge victorious in their pursuit of clarity. And each step forward reaffirmed something she had long suppressed, that in navigating shadows, she had ultimately rediscovered herself. This was just the beginning, a gateway to freedom, and a newfound identity shimmering in the light the moment she awaited and transformed herself to embrace. Thank you for joining Eleanor on this journey. Here, at the edge of transformation and resolution, you too can experience the power of personal overcoming stories. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.